Simply a Better You, and today we're talking children's books. Do you love to read? I love to read. My girls love to read. So just how much is too much? How many books do we know to keep? How do we know which ones to get rid of without breaking little ones' hearts? And of course, our own. We've spent a lot of money on these books, and whether they were gifts or something that we went out and purchased ourselves for our children, sometimes it's hard to part with something that we've spent money on, yet our kids don't exactly like. So guys, today I am going to share with you 3 wonderful tips that I have learned through the years on how to declutter, organize, and let go of some of the books that we have. So friends, how many books do we keep? How do we know which ones to keep? How do we know we're not keeping too much? I mean, is there a number? Is there the perfect number? What if we get rid of a book that they really love? Is there a right answer to all these questions? And I'm here to tell you, no, there's no perfect answer. But we can walk through some things to help make this process a lot easier for you. So if you have children, and really regardless of the age, you'll find that your child has a favorite book. The book that, the pages are crinkled, they may have like sticky fingerprints on them, they may have coloring in them. The books that they love, they absolutely love for you to curl up in bed with them and read to them every night the same book. This is one of our favorite books. And yes, I make all the noises when I read this book. So this would be an easy yes when I'm going through Hannah's bookshelves. And I mean, an absolute easy yes. But then we come across books that we're not so sure about. This is a thick book, and obviously this book cost more than this book. And it was purchased with great intentions because these are 5-minute stories. And we want to get through the bedtime process as fast as possible, so we're thinking 5-minute stories. Mom can read this, Dad can read this. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. We all know these stories. We love, the traditional Disney movie stories. And this was purchased for that purpose. I've got some bad news. We don't read this book. We just don't. Hannah doesn't reach for this book. This is not one of her favorite books. So that's my first tip for you guys. When you're going through your books, the easiest thing you can do is have your child pick out their favorite books. Have them make a pile of their favorite books. You will be very surprised that it's not as many as you think, and they're not going to keep everything on this shelf. And they're going to have a lot easier time, probably, especially for me, letting go of these books than probably you. I mean, I love books. I love books to an extreme level, and I have purchased so many books. We've been given books. I love books. It used to be a job of mine. I was a marketer for authors, so I had tons of free books given to me. And my book collection is scary. It's scary, but I've done really good with minimizing it. Really, I have. A lot of ebooks. I don't have to give those up. So go through the books. Have your child pick out their favorite books and make a pile. So we know that those are definitely yeses. Another great tip that the Minimal Mom shared: how many books can they or ourselves handle picking up? And when I first heard her say this, I was like, oh my gosh, like a light went off in my head. I'm always saying, minimize their toys, get rid of all the little pieces. We don't necessarily need all the big bulky stuff. Let them keep what they play with and get rid of the rest. We can actually see what they can manage because they're willing to pick it up. It's easier for them to handle if they have less. And of course, if it's something they really love, like baby dolls, she loves this doll and she takes care of it like it is her precious treasure. She puts it back in the doll crib. It's kept up off the floor. The things are put away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this works for books. How many books can your child manage that they can keep put away on a shelf? I want you to use a space to contain the books. You may not need an entire bookshelf, and then again, if your child reads that many books, and this is going to be based on age or how your bookshelf is set up, this one is rather deep. If you have a flat bookshelf, it's going to hold less books, but let your bookshelf be your container. Let it set your limits on how many books you can keep or how many books your child can keep, and explain that to them. Let them know, just like when we buy toy bins, this is what holds the toys, and once it's full, we can't put any more in there, or we have to take some out and give them away and donate them, and then we can put more toys back in this. This is the bad guy. This is the limit, the space that can hold the toys. This is the space that holds the books. This is our limit. So when this gets too full and books start to get thrown on top here, I know that I need to go back through this and sort through books. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Hannah go through her books. I'm actually going to allow my 6-year-old to do the decluttering process for me. She is going to pull out her favorite books and make a pile. And then I'm going to go back through the pile and we're going to determine just how many books she and I can manage to fit within this space. Now, it didn't take long for her to go through those books, maybe 5-10 minutes, but as you can see, her keep pile is a lot smaller than her donate pile. She did a wonderful job, probably better than myself, because a lot of the books I thought she was going to keep, she actually let go. That's telling me she's kind of tired of reading the same old thing over and over again, and it's time to rotate in some new books. So let's go ahead and put the books on the shelf that she's wanting to keep, and then I'll show you how we rotate books in. Real quick, let me point out that books that come with sleeves or the outside cover, there is no point in keeping these. The kids take them off, they end up on their floor, they end up, crumpled up and stepped on and ripped. So just go ahead and remove these when you get the book. Don't feel guilty about it. I know I did, thinking that it's part of the book, it needs to stay together. But honestly, this is just a hassle for them to take off the book and put back on the book. So go ahead and just let it go. So as you can see, this is a lot more manageable for her and for myself. This is way less than I had up here on this shelf, which is really spectacular. So I think what we're going to do from now on is we're just going to have no more that can fit one book deep instead of 2 books deep. And then of course within the space of this shelf. I think that would be a lot more manageable for her and myself. Now we do have a little bit of room that we can get a few extra books in if we want to rotate some books in, because she has gotten rid of quite a few. And I will show you our book bin. Okay, this is our book bin, and as you can see, this book bin is filled to the top, which means in order to get any books in here that we want to save or any future books that we receive, we have to declutter this box. Now, one of the first things that I will look for in our book bin is coloring books. Our girls receive a lot of coloring books, but they prefer actual pages printed off from online, and they like to create their own pictures. So we actually have quite a bit of paper, blank paper, that they would rather color in. So I'm going to go ahead and let go of some of these coloring books to make some room. Any extra folders that aren't being used. So right now we're close to Easter, and I have pulled these books out to put on her shelf to kind of start that conversation about Easter, and of course just share some fun Easter books with her. But when we rotate these books back in, if there's no room in this bin, that means that we have to declutter the bin to keep the books we want to keep, or ask Hannah if she's ready to let these books go to get new Easter books, which you know is going to happen in the Easter basket, because you know Mom has a book addiction. Duplicate books, you only need to keep one, so you know, kind of decide, donate the other one. This is a book that I'm actually going to move to my memory bin for Mia. This is how Mia learned how to say her ABCs, how she learned to read, how she learned all of her, ABC sounds. She knew all of her letters and all of her sounds by the age of 2, thanks to this book. We love Pete the cat, but what I have noticed is that Hannah is quickly growing out of Pete the cat. So I am going to share these books with a dear friend of mine and see if she would like to use them for her little ones. For anybody who's looking to introduce the Bible to your younger readers, this is a beautifully written book. The Jesus Storybook Bible Tell it's a masterpiece. The pictures are beautiful, but not only that, the way that it is written and the story reads, it's like poetry. It's an absolute delight to read to your children. Holy cow, look at all these books we are passing on. We were keeping way too much. I had no idea. I really hadn't thought about it. And this is what we're keeping, is just on this shelf. So, friends, sometimes we hang on to things thinking that it's what our children need, it's what they want, or maybe what we want. And sometimes we just need to ask. Our kids don't know that it's okay to let go of these things. They may be thinking that I have to hang on to this because Mom and Dad said so. Mom and Dad bought this for me, so I can't let go of it. ask them. You know, I know they have little minds and they're still growing and learning. And if you're not sure, like, this is one of her favorite books. These are her favorite books. We read these books all the time, but she chose to let these go. Now, if you're not 100% sure that this isn't a mistake, take these and put them in your book bin and call it a time will tell bin or a let's see bin. If you're not sure, place the books in there. That way, if she asks, you know, where's the tooth book? I want to read the tooth book. You can get it out of the bin. So you get the final say, but let them have a say in what they're keeping in their room. It might not be what you think. Okay, now let's real quick talk about some buyer's remorse, some purchaser's guilt. So I have purchased a lot of books for Hannah. A lot of them are hand-me-downs from her older sister, but I love to buy her books, especially if I can find the ones that are autographed by an author. That means nothing to her. That's all me right there. But I've obviously spent money on these books and she's not interested in reading them. Some of these she's never even read. And I need to be the one that's okay with letting the money go. So let's talk about this real quick. Yes, you spent money, but right now that book isn't serving a purpose. It's not serving any kind of value in your home other than holding up space on a shelf. It's causing stress and clutter in your rooms, in your children's rooms. And I know as a parent, you want the absolute best for your child. So if you know how much stress all the clutter in your house is causing you, or the clutter of their room, the craziness and constantly arguing and fighting with, why can't you pick up your toys? Your room is a mess. The just pick a book already so that we can read and get ready for bed. All of this stress that is created by our stuff. Is it worth it? Is that stuff worth the argument? Is it worth the anxiety? Is it worth, you know, fighting and arguing over stuff, you know? Let it go. Yes, you spent money. I'm so sorry that you've spent money. I even have that feeling like, oh my gosh, I have spent so much money on this. What was I thinking? I'll never get the same money back out of it. But honestly, to know that I don't have to keep track of this thing anymore, that I can pass it on to somebody who in any other circumstances may not have the money to purchase that at full price, and they may actually need this item. Or a mom that, you know, she can't afford to buy books as a single parent. She and her family would be blessed to receive an assortment of books that, in other words, is $10. $10 for a book. Guys, that's 2 cartons of eggs, depending on where you're buying eggs. That's bread, milk, and eggs for a family, for a single parent and some children. And guys, sometimes they just don't have the extra money to get the things that they know their children need or that they would like for them to have. And you can bless somebody by passing on excess amount of books that you're able to purchase. So guys, let go of the guilt and the shame that comes with the making a purchase mistake. Buying something that you realize that you didn't actually need, or buying something that sounded so good. It sounded so good, it looked good, they said this is the best book ever, this is the best toy ever, like this right here. This is the best toy ever. My kid had to have this toy. And yeah, it was great for about 3 days. I'm not going to tell you what I spent on that. And I got it on sale. And I still spent too much. But it's now taking up space on her shelf. And sometimes we just have to come to terms with, I made a mistake. I made a mistake, and it's time to let it go and just move on. It's less stress on you. It's less stress on your children. It's less stress in your household. It's time to move it out. So guys, thanks for joining me today as we decluttered my daughter's bookshelf. And hopefully you were able to sit and watch this video and work through some bookshelves in your house as well. Now guys, I know we did children's books today, but I want you to understand this applies to you as well. It's just as simple to go to your room and start pulling your books off your bookshelf and deciding what stays and what goes. Are you utilizing this book? Are you reading it? Can you pass this book on to someone else who may enjoy it? Is it manageable within the space that you have given it? Do you honestly have too many books for this space that you're keeping them in? And lastly, is the book easy to replace if you let it go? If you make a mistake and you get rid of a book that you really wish you had kept, is it easy to replace? Can you find it at a garage sale? Can you purchase it again? Can you find it at the library? Can you loan it to a friend and maybe just, if you loan it to a friend and you never think about it again, then maybe it was easier to let go of than you thought. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today here on Simply a Better You. I know that this decluttering process can seem quite stressful at times, but I promise you the more that we get out of our homes, the better it will feel. So guys, thank you for joining me on my journey today, and I bless you on yours.